Hello everyone and welcome to another casual review. Today I'm talking about Metro 2033 Redux. For those of you who are not familiar, this is a survival horror first-person shooter game that takes place underneath the city of Moscow, Russia. It's based on the Metro series of novels by Dmitry Glukhovsky, and you play as a young 20-year-old named Artyom in a post-apocalyptic world. Now, this is kind of an interesting setting because it takes place in Moscow, Russia, and I feel like a lot of games and just media as a whole don't really cover this part of the world, so it's interesting interacting with all of these humans who have this heavy Russian accent, and sometimes they'll say certain words in Russian. Mostly it's swear words, but it's just fun being in that part of the world anyway. Although you really don't get to see that much of Moscow, Russia, because like I said, this is a post-apocalyptic world. So basically, after the events of this futuristic World War III, mutants have arisen from the atomic waste that was given to the land, and so all of the humans in Moscow, Russia were forced to hide underneath the tunnels in the metro system. It's very obvious you are in Russia, not just because of their accents, but you come across a lot of these communist groups and Nazi groups, and obviously on top of fighting those humans in the metro system, you're going to be encountering a ton of different demons both in the metro and on the surface as well. You can have 3 different guns at a time, and you can customize them if you have the proper resources to them. The currency in the metro in this post-apocalyptic world is obviously a certain type of ammo, so that's just used as currency as well, and you can spend that to customize your gun, or sometimes if you're lucky you'll find a really good gun out in the metro or while you're exploring on the surface. And so it's just kind of like a resource management game, very much a survival type of game where you have to watch your ammo because it is pretty limited. And not only do you have to conserve your ammo, you're also going to have to conserve other things like your mask filters. Now, in this post-apocalyptic world, there's nuclear waste all over the place, and especially when you're on the surface, you will be required to wear a mask with a filter that has a time limit to when the filter runs out, and you're going to have to hope that you have other filters on hand in order to be breathing that fresh air, because I think if you go about 30 seconds of breathing this polluted air, you will die. Your mask can also get damaged if you are wearing it during combat, and this can kind of put you in a tough pickle. Now, I never really ran out of filters. The game always seemed to make sure that as long as you're exploring and looting rooms as you move along this world, your mask itself, while you may find replacements for that, I felt myself getting stuck in certain positions because your mask can get quite cracked and damaged over time, and if it breaks, then you're out of luck. It doesn't matter if you have all the filters in the world, you're going to be breathing in this pollution. Now, this game does autosave as well, so it's possible that you will have a really damaged mask and the game will save right before a big encounter with either demons or other humans, and you're just kind of going to have to hope that you can get through this encounter without getting hit much more. Otherwise, your mask will break and you'll have to reset back to that last checkpoint. I never seem to really run out of ammo either, and this might just be due to my scavenging lifestyle whenever I play games like this, but I think it's also because of how I approach the combat in this game. Now, I can tell that this game really encourages me to play stealthily. You have a couple different moves, like if you sneak behind a human, you can choke them out, or you have these knives that you can throw and it will silently kill an enemy, and so there are a lot of stealth options here. However, I just found that it was easier just to running guns blazing, and in the firefight, eventually I would come out on top. They are actually pretty generous with your health, and your health will regenerate over time as long as you don't get hit. So I just felt like if you could just hide around the corner, you alert the enemies of your presence, hide around that corner, blast any Nazi or communist that comes around that corner, take all their ammo and all of their resources, and more of the enemies will just come down this hallway into your deathly trap. By the end of the encounter, you are pretty stocked up on resources. The AI themselves are actually pretty dumb because they will just chase to whatever room you are in. They won't try to flank you or anything like that. They'll just come down this hallway and be destroyed. So that you can kind of cheat the system this way, and it's actually a pretty good way to get you stocked up on ammo and other resources, and even some pretty cool guns that drop from enemies. Now, there are certain sections where you are required to play stealthily, especially when you are playing playing against demons, because demons themselves do not have ammo to replenish your stockpile. So sometimes it might be in your best interest to sneak around some of the stronger demon sections. This happens mostly in the later game, however. So on top of all that, you have to worry about charging up a battery for your flashlight, because when you are in the metro, it is very, very dark. Now, you're charging up your battery to charge up your flashlight, and while the flashlight does provide some light, this is one of my major complaints about this game. I'd want to say probably the worst thing about this game is when you are playing in the metro, in these tunnels, with very, very little light, just the light of your flashlight. I cannot see a thing playing handheld on the Nintendo Switch. Now, I'm even playing on the OLED, so supposedly it is a better screen and I should be able to see things a little bit easier. But if I am playing like in my car or something handheld on the Switch, there's no way. I can't see a single thing, and that is one of my major gripes about video games, is when it is so dark that I can't see where I'm going or what I'm doing. And I understand, like, well, obviously you're in the metro and there's not like electricity to power all of these lights, and obviously they want the tone of this game to be very scary and spooky and not being able to see what's around you. You never know when a demon is creeping up on you. I get that, but I just feel like maybe give me full visibility with the flashlight wherever the flashlight rays are shining, and maybe just barely be able to make out what's going on around the flashlight, rather than just barely being able to make out what's in the flashlight beam and not being able to see anything outside of that. It is actually pretty frustrating, and it hampered the gameplay a lot for me. Probably my least favorite part was in the tunnels, but I want to say about half of the game is spent in these dark tunnels. So my favorite parts of this game are in the later parts of the game when you are on the surface, and I just like that whole, like, you are under the sun, you can see what's going on. Now, granted, that comes with its own problems because you always have to wear the mask and manage your cartridge filters to breathe that toxic air. Now, I do want to say about 3/4 of the way into the game, I don't know if this is a spoiler or not, but you do get access to night vision goggles, and while this does also require you to power up a battery every once in a while, the night vision goggles make this game so much better, in my mind anyway, because you can actually see what's going on. This comes with its own problems, however, where it adds that green night vision tint to everything, and there's no way to brighten up the settings in the game, and obviously for the Switch I had the brightness all the way up, so that's my biggest complaint. Now, my second biggest complaint is, like I said, a lot of this game takes place in the metro tunnel. So visually, aesthetically, you're not going to get a ton of variation in this game. It's going to be pretty samey. Same with the enemies that you're facing. You're going to be fighting a lot of the same types of mutants. But to counteract that just makes levels where you are playing on the surface even more exciting, because it adds such a dynamic change to being in the metro tunnels. Now, there are some good things about this setting as well. We have seen a ton of post-apocalyptic games like this in the past. Now, this game came out around the same time that Fallout 3 also came out, so that it got compared by that one a lot. But this setting is actually kind of cool because you get to see how humanity has adapted to living in these metro tunnels. You got to come across all of these different stations, all of these different civilizations. You get to see how humans have adapted and survived in this crazy world. And that's just part of the charm, because this plot really gives off a whole hero's journey for our main character Artyom, because he is tasked with going to basically like the main station to ask for help, because these mutants are attacking his station more and more frequently. So he has to go to the main station. He has to make this huge journey across the metro to ask for help from the main city. So it's kind of like you are actually going on this quest to save your own personal village. Same classic story, just a wildly different premise. Now, I know that this game is really setting itself up to be very scary, but it might be because this game looks and feels just a little bit dated. Like, all the time I knew I was playing a video game. It's very much like Xbox 360, PlayStation 3 level of graphics, so the immersion is hindered a little bit there, but I felt like personally, I am usually terrified with these scary scary games, but I didn't think this game was that scary. Even with all the darkness around me, that was more of an annoyance than adding to the horror of this game. There aren't that many jump scares either. So I feel like if you are afraid of jump scares and you don't like the really, really scary games, I think you might be able to get by with this one. I definitely appreciate its more linear gameplay style. I know another game like this, Fallout 3, is totally open world, and that has its pros and cons, but sometimes it's nice just to play like a linear campaign, like tell me where to go. You're always holding this compass that you can pull out, and the needle will point you in exactly the right direction you have to go, so you will never ever get lost in this game. So it was actually really nice in that way. I definitely prefer a more linear experience over something that's more open world, but it still might be in your best interest to go off the beaten path a little bit and explore, because obviously you have these resources that you want to look out for, like ammo, but there are also these notes hidden throughout the world. They're not so hidden, most of them are in plain sight, and if you grab them, then Artyom will write in his journal a little bit. It's just more writing about his campaign that he's going through. It's not a huge long game either, which I actually kind of like. Maybe a little bit over 10 hours to play through, which is like just the right length for me personally. I get the whole experience without having to invest a week towards it. There are 2 different endings, and as I got my ending, it felt like a bad ending, so I looked it up because I wanted to know if this was the only ending, and apparently if you do other events differently, you will get a good ending, so I had to look that up on YouTube. Now, how does this game run on the Nintendo Switch? Obviously, this is a remake, a remaster of some kind, and I don't know how much they have changed from the Xbox 360 version to this Nintendo Switch version in order to make it run. It runs awesome. I haven't noticed any dips in the frames. My only complaint about this port aside from the low visibility in the darkness of the tunnels, would be the long loading times between chapters, because you have to wait at least 1 to 2 minutes between each segment, and it's enough for me to like pull up my phone and look at Reddit or something, because the loading times are that long. But if those loading times are required in order to have a flawless gameplay experience, I am totally okay with that. As for like any game, I'd rather have a super long loading time than just no frame drops at all. Overall, I just feel like this whole post-apocalyptic world setting has actually been done better in other games. Like the first one that comes to mind for me at least is The Last of Us, and that's more zombies than mutants, but I just feel like as far as like storytelling goes, other games have done this better, but I think this Metro series brings something also unique to the table, and it is worth a playthrough. If I was to give this a score, which I'm going to, I think I would actually give this game a 4 out of 5. Now, there are a lot of lulls in the middle of this game, but looking back, my whole journey and the ending just ties a nice little bow that actually makes you sit down and think about your journey. Especially if you get the good ending itself, I think I actually really liked this game. So 4 out of 5. Definitely worth a playthrough, even though it is dated at this point. And I'm really looking forward to playing through Metro Last Light, which is also included in this Metro bundle that I bought for the Switch. So maybe one game in between this one, and then I will get to Metro Last Light, or maybe tomorrow I might feel a little differently and hop right in, so we'll see. That's it for me though. Let me know if you have any questions or comments about Metro 2033 or the Metro series in general. Have you read the books, and are they worth a read? Because I actually am looking at one right now on Amazon, and I'm about to hit that buy now button, so let me know. Otherwise, I'll talk to you later. Bye!